to have a look at the month ahead for February, and things are already beginning to hot up a little in the South African political scene. Well, looking at the chart, it's going to be an intense month of February for President Ramaphosa, and that's probably going to last a little bit longer than February. And February is one of those months where it looks like the heat is on. Presumably that at least partly has to do with the investigation that has now been launched against him by the Public Protector's Office, as well as whatever ramifications might start coming out of that. It's not looking great, although it certainly does not look like this can seriously affect his position as president right now. But he's very much shown as being on the spot and exposed. There's a pattern of secrecy and exposure, and of course we know very well that is the pattern of the modern South Africa. And we're back in that pattern for at least this early part of 2022. The second part of the Zondo Commission's report is due to come out very soon, and most likely that is full of surprising and shocking revelations. That's also going to be very shaky for the ANC and the government, and Ramaphosa's position as the subject of these investigations at the moment is going to even get further emphasized and stressed for him. As I say, it's an extremely tenuous and scary position that he's in at the moment, although he will survive it. But this is going to have a very serious effect on the image of the country in the world at the moment. Where it matters, South Africa is taking a knock in terms of how we are seen by others. What balances that out is our continuing strength in our dealing with the epidemic, or at least experiencing the epidemic at the moment. What we do know is that we're not seeing the overwhelm that many other countries are seeing with the current iteration. So that's also working as a stabilizing factor, and it does seem is beginning to help other countries understand how to deal with the epidemic at this stage. And there are studies that are beginning to look at South Africa and the experience of the Omicron variant here, and how perhaps they can manage a little bit less dramatically the current situation of the virus. So that is because our public health area in our chart continues to be strong, although that is not forever. And I'll repeat what I said in the year ahead, that a little bit later in the year, the health area of South Africa's chart does look like it is coming under challenge again. So it's important that we don't become complacent and realize that we're at the stage of moving to the next level. Hopefully that means where we deal with how to deal with it as an endemic virus. But nevertheless, there's still many challenges along the way, and not the least is which to the public health system itself. So there still needs to be a lot of management with regards to that. What is good to see is that the economic indicators are looking stronger in South Africa over the course of this month. There certainly is a fair amount of economic recovery, and although the petrol price is going to increase dramatically, and that'll obviously have a knock-on effect on inflation and the rest, in terms of how we're managing money at the moment and the attendant interest rates and everything like that, interest rates, as you know, will go up as well, but nevertheless there does seem to be a stabilization of the economy. In the olden days, not so long ago, we would have called this kind of configuration tightening our belts. The citizens no longer listen to that platitude, because we see that that's never done in government. It's always expected only of citizens. But nevertheless, that does seem to be what the country as a whole is doing, cutting down spending. It's interesting that perhaps the loan from the World Bank is having an effect and forcing us to stabilize our expenditure and rationalize it more clearly and so on, because it does look from the charts like there's a coming to terms with reality and a conservative, strong approach and so on with regards to the economy. And history has shown, with regards to astrology, looking at that usually, the way it shows in the chart, leads to an improvement of the exchange rate. So we can see that the effect on our economy at the moment is very good. And that's the balancing factor against the ongoing challenges of the government and the presidency, who are looking pretty terrible at the moment and will continue to do so over the course of the next month. Nevertheless, tourism is on the rise. We've already begun to see that, and there's going to be rapid recovery in that regard. There are indications of lots more foreign engagement in the tourist sense in South Africa's chart, and lots more foreigners in the country. That's going to be beneficial to us as well. Hopefully it can also mean other things other than tourism, but other engagements and relationships with countries that now can help us recover our tourist economy and the internationalism, international links, so many of which have been seriously damaged by the pandemic situation. Developments in sport, which I mentioned in the year ahead, also look to be happening in this month, where we will see some surprise changes and developments probably in a national team that will also lead to very good results in the not too distant future. So look for a bit of a shake-up amongst some of your favorite players somewhere. As much as the chart is looking difficult and challenging for the government and for the presidency, and as much as the image of the country is being affected, South Africa is actually in a relatively strong position in the early months of this year in terms of recovering some of our sense of ourselves, some of our lifestyle, some of our economic strength, and getting back to what I said at the end of the year ahead. We need to shift power back to the citizenry in this country. From corruption to all the political shenanigans to all the abuse of power by the ruling party, we need to move power back to the citizens. I've often said on this show, South Africa has a history of grassroots organization and power and getting stuff together. And it certainly looks increasingly like that is what's happening over the course of these early months of this year, and especially of February into March, where we do see a lot of, as I say, the citizens kind of reclaiming the image of South Africa and the country itself. And although political and other economic, etc., challenges will continue to shake the country over this month, certainly, as I said, with regards to the ANC and the president, the effect is not as damaging as it might be, because the people are beginning to get their stuff together. So, go South Africa. Let's have a look at what you can expect for yourself in the month of February. Aries, this looks like a great time for spring cleaning, even though it isn't spring. But it's kind of a getting your house in order by getting rid of a lot of things. So Aries, let's call it your throwaway month. This is the time to clean out everything and anything you can. You know, in the bigger chart for the country, we saw things about secrets and exposures. And in your chart, the same thing shows, but not with regards to secrets, with regards to just old stuff pushed away, pushed aside, pushed into cupboards. Stuff not hidden away, but forgotten away. So now's the time to get rid of all that baggage that you've been carrying around that you might not even have realized that you were carrying around. And if you have any baggage that you do know that you've been carrying around, unfinished business, this is the time to get rid of it as well. Your chart says it's an especially good time for confronting people and situations that you might have let slip. Don't get yourself into any serious confrontations, but just facing things as a way of clarifying and letting go. You want a bare cupboard and an empty house by the end of this. So this might also be a good time just to clear out the house of anyone and anything that might be a little bit too much heavy baggage at the moment. It's a great time for getting rid of how things from the past are hanging over your head. Fresh start for the year. Taurus, it's time to show what you're made of. And I don't mean your strength and your metal. I mean that you are actually one of the more creative souls on the planet, and sometimes you need to show that. Many Taurians are aware of their creativity and hopefully do make use of their creativity. But sometimes that thinking of yourself as practical and real and down to earth and all of that means that you don't think of yourself as creative at all. Creative really just means using your talents, using your skills, the stuff that we seem to come with, the stuff that we seem to be born with, whether they're artistic or something like that is not the point at all. So creativity really refers to the stuff that stems from you, your own ideas, your own ability to take charge. February is the month to identify that, to use that to the maximum. It's a time for you to shine. But in order to do that, you're probably going to have to step out of your comfort zone. Even the more creative Taurians out there need to push their own envelopes a little bit and do the unexpected, do the risky in some kind of a way. Whatever kind of creativity it is, whether it's the artistic side or whether it just means you're the wellspring of what's going on around you this month, you do need to show what's unique about you, what's different, and what is kind of special about the contribution you can make. It means you need to risk being seen as a little out there, but this is the time to do it. It's going to get you to really benefit from that skill, so go for it. Gemini, things call for hard work at this time. You might find yourself slaving away. You might find yourself drawn into other people's stuff that you're going to have to contribute a lot of hard work. And you might even find yourself feeling a little enslaved by everything that you have to do. There isn't an easy way out of that, and it's good to get it done and discharged. But what you really do need to be careful of this month is to make sure that there's some kind of a balance between all the hard work energy that you're putting out and what you're getting back for it. So if you get drawn into either helping others or even just working for others, make sure that your reward is a balance for what you're doing. Admittedly, it is going to be a little bit hard to do that, but this is the time when you'll really be able to identify your own value and make sure that you're asserting that value in some kind of a way. With regards to your own stuff, where maybe no one's paying you anything, this is a time to be careful not to overdo things or expect things to happen too quickly. The great news is that a strategic, measured approach at this time to your own goals and work that you need to do for yourself will lead to good rewards. It actually is a good time for money and other rewards from a proper, balanced approach to your efforts. So don't overdo it, but be willing to do the hard work, and you're going to actually see results and rewards by the end of the month. Cancer, the focus is on your relationships at this time. And some of you might be in long-distance relationships. There's quite an indication that this is a time to make sure that you connect and reconnect, even if you're not in a long-term relationship and it's something more close by and hopefully accessible. This is an important time to kind of show and make connection. It's a great time for exchange with your partner, and one of the ways to refresh existing relationships is to really have a look for yourself. What are we giving each other? What are we getting from each other? And just re-engaging in why this relationship is so good for both of you, and making sure as well that you re-establish strong bonds of communication. When long-distance relationships show in astrology that way, it's also trying to indicate at this time that there might be a great distance between you, but this can be easily bridged at this time. It's a great time to also be having a look at common things that you share with your partner, whether that's long distance or not, and how we can use that as a bridge in some way. Other relationships are also important, Cancerians. This is also a good time to connect with other people that are far away and you might not have a personal relationship with, but it's all about building bridges across distances, re-establishing connections, bringing everyone in your life more together or towards you in that kind of a way. Other than that, it's great for anything to do with foreign matters. If you get a chance to travel, or if people are traveling to visit you, that's going to be the highlight of the month for you. Leos, it looks like you're busy with a whole bunch of stuff that you don't really want to be busy with, meaning that there's bureaucracies and there's certain kind of restrictions and limitations that you're going to have to deal with. It's one of those times where you're going to have to make a lot of compromises, and you might have to deal with certain boundaries and limitations and restrictions that are being imposed upon you. The important thing at this time is that to know that it's not that useful to fight them. You're going to have to learn to work with them, but at the same time you must not get into a situation of sacrificing yourself at this time. So the balance you're looking for, it's not you versus the authority or the restriction, but it's you matching it in some way. And it's almost like you'd be saying, okay, you can have those boundaries, but this is where I need to be standing, and this is how I'm going to deal with those boundaries. Or whether they're rules, regulations, authorities, whatever exactly I mean by boundaries. It might just mean the stuff that has to be done, but this is the balance between asserting your own needs and identity and what you're doing, and accepting the restrictions and limitations of what have to be done, because in the end, it unmistakably benefits you. Your chart is showing advances in your career and advances in your financial situation in February and probably March as well. So it's worth it. Virgo, things might be getting off to a shaky or a frustrating start. It might look like things are not really working for you and not really happening, but gradually as the month goes on, you'll find the situation improving. And if you're aware, as I am making you, that this is a great month for actually moving forward with your goals, you'll persist gently. It's not a good time to be banging your head against the wall. Things are moving a little bit slower than you would like, especially at first. But gentle persistence is going to make it happen. The chart says it's a great month for money, it's a great month for the rewards and results of what you're doing, and it's a great month for the simple reward of being able to follow your goal. So don't be waylaid by what seems to be difficult or impossible at first. The secret, the trick for the month of February to you is don't be misled by initial difficulties. Don't be disheartened. Take a step back, maybe have a laugh at yourself, maybe just rethink it, but the important thing is just pause, slow down, accept the pace that you're not in control of, but don't lose sight of the goal. Even to the point of this is a good time for even more challenging goals, things that are more difficult to achieve. They are going to work, so don't be misled by the initial difficulties. Don't give up in any kind of way. Slow and gentle persistence, February for Virgos, makes rewards by the end of the month. Librans, it might also seem to you as if things are not really working at first, or it might just feel that you're in a little bit of blank space where nothing much is really happening, nothing really is taking off, nothing bad is going on, just that nothing good is going on either. So you might feel as if you're in some kind of a doldrums or being overlooked, or as if things are passing you by in some kind of way. The good news is that is not the whole month. It gradually begins to shift as the month goes on. And what you really need to be doing for the first half of the month is getting into strategic mode, knowing that increasingly in the month you'll be able to put your own ideas forward, be able to pursue your own pursuits and goals. So instead of feeling disheartened and pushing and bumping your head and trying doors that aren't opening, rather just strategize, act as if things are working very smoothly for you, because that is increasingly going to be the case. It's still a great month for important goals, for things that are long-term investments in your goals, or investments even of the financial kind, putting things in place that will develop slowly and over a long period of time. That's the strategy that you need to be employing. And actually, you could end up by the end of the month in a strong and influential position. People are willing to take you seriously. So it's time to put your ideas and your goals up front. Scorpio, it's time for a bit of taking stock of who is in your life at the friendship level. Not everyone who's in your social group or who go as friends are necessarily friends. So this is a great time to have a look at, are these relationships really serving me? Am I losing out in some kind of way or being taken advantage of? Or is this actually, this person, this relationship, a meaningful resource in my life and theirs? It's a great time to look for better meaning in the connections around you, because in general and with regards to your social group, this is also a good time to be looking at ideals. What do I really want from life? What am I really trying to get out of life? And how are these relationships or this relationship serving that or not? Again, I mentioned I'm not really talking about your romantic relationships, your one-to-one relationships, but it's more like, does the world support me? Does my social world support me in what I'm doing? And if not, it's time to do something about it, because like other people this month, it's a bit of a time for a clean out for you. There is deadwood, be it in people, be it in situations. You need to clean it out and really readdress the matter of, does this serve my bigger purposes? Does this serve my greater goals? You might be losing some people in your life, but you're opening the way to fulfilling some of your ideals. And Sagittarius also needs to be looking at ditching old baggage and clearing out some stuff. Tends to be a little bit more about yourself And for Sagittarians, you kind of need to check out how you've been holding yourself back. Maybe in some situations you've been too discreet or too polite. Maybe in other situations you haven't stepped up to the plate. But whatever the case may be, this is about what can you do to unleash yourself, in the sense of holding yourself back. It's not something that Sagittarians usually do, but it seems as if you've felt the need to push some things below the surface, or just keep some things away from public view. Maybe you need to ditch those things altogether. Maybe it's time to bring them right out into the open, because what the chart's really showing is that you need to re-establish the things which give you a strong sense of yourself and a stronger sense of how the world can value you. You might be feeling undervalued and underappreciated, and that has also got more to do with how you view yourself and how you're allowing yourself to be viewed, because of what you're withholding and what you're just tending to be a little bit too discreet and maybe even polite about. So Sagittarians, what could be better news for a Sagittarian than let her rip, let it right out there. You're the most demonstrative of all the signs and often the most tactless of all the signs. Just be yourself and the month will really work for you. Capricorn, the month after your birthday is often one of the best months to really get your goals into action and start seeing some results. And for you, Capricorn, that's exactly what February is about this year. It's a great time to see fast and immediate results, something that often doesn't happen for you, who usually has to invest and build up things slowly and usually patient enough to do that. Well, the good news is it's even happening without that patience. This is a great time to start new things, to carry on with existing things, but most importantly, to do things which can show fast and immediate results. It's a good month for money as a result of all of that, and it's a good month for other results and rewards from past things to start showing themselves. If you need to assert your authority in any kind of way, if you're meant to be standing up and stepping up to the plate, this is the month where it's really going to work, because people seem to be willing to listen to you and indeed eager to listen to you. You'll find that your ideas are being called for, you're being called for to use your thoughts, ideas and authority in order to advance others at this time. And there's the natural Capricorn taking charge and getting into a position of strength and authority. Capricorn, your year is off to a great start in February. Remember to value yourself correctly, value what you do correctly, and assert that it's what they are waiting and willing to hear about. Aquarius, things that have been put in place and working over the last number of months continue to do so for you. You're a little bit on a roll, but of course it's your birthday month, and it might be that you have to wait until you actually pass your birthday for things to really show that. So one of the things that you can be doing this month, especially before your birthday, but at any rate throughout this period, is really just sorting out your environment in some way. The chart implies there's too much, there's too many people, or there's too many things, or there's too much kind of scattered energy in your environment, and this is the time to be taking charge of that and clearing it out in some way. It also might mean that this is an opportunity to engage with people around you, especially people physically close to you, those who are neighbors and people in the immediate environment, as to how things can be improved, how you can cooperate or work together in whatever sense this may mean. For some people, that's, for example, in an office, it's the person next door. For others, it's literally their next door neighbors. But it's just the people in your immediate environment. Re-look at that and see how can we help each other and how can we serve each other. For those of you who've got family members, even if they aren't physically close to you, siblings, this is also a good time to be engaging with your siblings, maybe just having some social time with your siblings, or perhaps sorting out some stuff that needs to be sorted out. So Aquarius, clearing your space, better people, better environment around you, keeps up the good work for you. Pisces, the run up to the birthday can often be a difficult time for a good 6 weeks. It doesn't have to be so difficult that it's problematical. It just means that things are a little bit more scattered and dissipated than usual. So you can do great preparation for your next birthday coming up in some weeks' time, but also clearing your space and finding your sense of roots and foundation again. That is your theme for the month of February, Pisces. establish your foundation. That can be your domestic space we're talking about. It can be in principle elsewhere, making sure at work or elsewhere that you've got a very clear, solid space that you're coming from, that you stand on solid ground in some way. You know what you stand, you're convinced of your own ideas, and you will live up to your convictions. That's what you need to re-establish this month. So it's a great preparation for what will be a much better time after your birthday. Just getting yourself back into a strong position, feeling about yourself, your roots about yourself, rather than worrying about all the things which aren't really working, which are vague at the moment. All of those kind of things can easily distract you from the fact that this is actually a good time for you, because your chart shows you rebuilding your strength and rebuilding your roots. And on the side, great month for money and great month for good old-fashioned luck. So concentrate on strengthening yourself and just allow the universe to bring things to you. It's going to turn out to be a great February. The year's off to a great start. I'll see you here next week at the same time.